Hello to the world and to the kingdom citizens. I greet you in the precious holy name of Yeshua Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach, who said in his word, John 8:32, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Hi, I'm Dr. John Curry, Ambassador Pan-African, and welcome to the Embassy of the Kingdom of Heaven on Earth. If you want to follow this podcast, please subscribe to JC Global Embassy TV 1. Ring the bell and hit the thumbs up button. Today we have a closing series of 2022. And in this, we want to make sure that it's clear that as Black folks, not only are we in the Bible, we are all through the Bible. So the subject matter is today, the Table of Nations, or 70 Black presence in the Bible. The Table of Nations, or 70 Black presence in the Bible. And that's found in Genesis chapter 10, verse 1 through 32. And we're going to give you a breakdown on the Table of Nations. And we want you to get a clear understanding of exactly what it means when it says the Table of Nations. That means that each one of Noah's sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, and the grandsons, Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan, all represent those 70 nations. So let us go into the 70 nations of the breakdown. If we look at Japheth, he was a caucasoid. This is breaking down the species of humans. He was considered a caucasoid. He had 14 nations. And the caucasoids were considered to be Europeans or white. 14 nations that's found in Genesis 10, verse 1 through 5. Then we look at Shem. He's a Mongoloid. And that Mongoloid had 26 nations. That's found in Genesis 10, verses 21 through 22. And then we go to Ham. Ham was considered a Negroid. He had 30 nations. Genesis 10, verses 6 through 20. So when we look at the Caucasoid, representing the Europeans, we look at Shem, the Mongoloid, representing Asiatic as well as black Asiatics during that time. And we'll look at Ham, the Negroid. What we notice is that Ham had 30 nations, the Negroid, which means that Ham had more than the Mongoloids as well as the Caucasoids. And Ham represent the black man. He represent you and I. Shem represent of the Asiatic, but more of the black Hebrews as well as the black Jews. And that breakdown brings us to almost 50 nations just with Shem and Ham. And the Caucasoids come in with 14 nations. But what does that mean today? That means that as Black folks, we have never, ever been a minority. We've always represented the majority throughout the whole world. It's just the Caucasoids and the Europeans want to make us think that we're a minority, so therefore they call us minorities as a way of getting us to demean ourselves. But God has set us in a great place. And from this, the Table of Nations, 70 nations. Remember, Japheth, the Caucasoid, 14 nations, represent the European. Shem, the Mongoloid, 26 nations, represent the black Jews and black Hebrews and some Asiatics. Ham, the Negroid, which represent black folks, period. He had 30 nations. So as a group, as blacks, we've never been a minority. But when we look into the presence of blacks in the Bible, I want to give you even more, a deeper dive into it. In the Old Testament timeline, blacks was represented and was present in the Bible. And as Black people, I want you to feel good about that. Because the world has been trying to tell us that no, we're not a part of the Bible, that we was monkeys and we was swinging from trees and that we really had nothing to do with it. But our Messiah, Yeshua Messiah, our God, Yahweh, has brought us in from the very beginning, and we are very significant to the book, very significant to the Bible. Let us go in. During the patriotic period of 2000 to 1400 BC, Hagar and Ishmael, the sons of Abraham, was black. That's found in Genesis chapter 16, verse 1. Pharaoh of Genesis also was black. That's Genesis 12, 15 through 20. Melchizedek, a priest, also was black. And this priest was came after the measure of what God himself was. He had no generation. He had no genealogy that is present. These was black. Hagar, Ishmael, Abraham himself, black. The Pharaoh of Egypt, black. And Melchizedek, black. When we go into the enslavement period of Exodus, the enslavement period of Exodus, that's 1400 to 12 BC. We find Jethro, the Midianite, black. That's Exodus 3 and 1. We find the mixed multitudes of Exodus, black. That's Exodus 12 and 28. Then we look at the Cushite wife of Moses, who was also black. That's Numbers 12 and 1. Moses married a black woman, and everybody was trying to get on him about it, but he knew that he was marrying a black woman for his love for her. We go to the Judges period. During the Judges period of 1200 through 1000 BC, we find Rahab, the harlot, black, Joshua 2 and 1. We find Abimelech, the son of Gideon, Judges 8 and 31, also black. Then we go to the United Monarchy period, 1000 to 922 BC. We see a man by the name of Uriah the Hittite. He was also black. That's 2 Samuel chapter 11, verse 3. We go to Cushite. Go to Cushite. David's messenger was also black. That's 2 Samuel chapter 2, verse 18 through 21. And we move on to Pharaoh's daughter, Solomon's wife, 1 Kings 3 and 1, was also black. Then we go to Queen of Sheba, 1 Kings 10 and 1. She was also black. Then we move slowly to the divided kingdom period. That's 992 to 722 BC. And we run into a young lady by the name of Jezebel. She was the daughter of Ishbel. 1 Kings 16, 3. 1 Kings 16, 31 through 33. She was also black. Then we move to the Judah Kingdom period, 721 through 586. We discover that Abimelech, the Ethiopian, was also black. He was an Ethiopian eunuch, and that's Jeremiah 38, 7 through 13. And now entering into the exile period, 586 through 536 BC. The restoration period, 536, the New Testament. We find that even more black presence in the Bible. The main man, Solomon, with all of his wisdom, in Songs of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5, he said, I am black. We go to Lamentation. We find verse 4, chapter 4, verse 8, talks about blacks being black as coal. Then we go to Jeremiah chapter 14, verses 2, Jeremiah chapter 8, verses 21. They all speaks to the blackness of our presence as black folks in the Bible. Revelation 1 and 14 give reference to blackness as far as hair like white wool. Revelation 4:2-4 speaks of the blackness in the Bible pertaining to us as black folks. Daniel chapter 7 verse 9 talks about his hair was as pure wool, speaks of the blackness. Job chapter 30 verse 30 reads, "My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat," speaks of the blackness. We go through the Bible and we see that our presence is not only there, our presence have been there from the very beginning. God has put us in the Bible so that when we came to this point in Christendom, when it came to this point where we are now, we can always go back to the book. Because in the book, the Bible, the Word of God, is our history. So we can always know who we are and whose we are by what God himself has allowed to be put in the book. I think that that's something that black folks need to be very, very proud of, because many has tried to X us out, as well as tried to X out our continent of which everything came from. You see, Ham had 4 sons. He had Cush. The word Cush means Ethiopia. You see, Cush was a progenitor of the Ethiopian people. The word Ethiopia in Genesis chapter 2, verse 13. Cush, in that word, Ethiopia, is first mentioned as representation of black folks, as representation of the continent is first mentioned. And you'll find it when you read it, is right there. God intentionally allowed for it to be there as first mentioned in the Bible, talking about the Ethiopians and talking about black folks as a whole. So that's found in Genesis 2 and 13. Cush is a Hebrew word meaning black. Also in the Greek, the word means son. So we have presence all through the Bible, and we should not take a back seat to any other group, because God has strategically put us in, because he knew. He has foreknowledge. He knew through his divine providence that we as black folks was going to be running into this type of thing. They've deemed us less than a man. They said we build no civilization. They said we made no contribution. But all of that has come to be a complete lie. Why? Because they do not want us to take ownership of who we are and what we have done. And when we don't do that, they can keep us as slaves. We can be free, but our brains can be locked in on slavery. So this is important. So if you're a black person watching this, you need to be excited about it. You should feel good about it, because God, with his superintendent, wanted you to know who you are long after slavery and long after things was happening in our lives. So let's look at the sons of Cush. By the way, the sons of Cush was all black. Ethiopia, he settled in northern Arabia. That's Psalms chapter 72, verse 16. Sapta settled in the southern area of Arabia. That's Isaiah 43, verse 3. Havilah, a land very near Egypt. That's Genesis 2 and verse 3. Then we have Ramnah, settled in the southern Arabian. Then we have Nimrod, who was a great world ruler, the first world ruler on the planet. He was a black man. And they love to talk about him as far as a great hunter, but they do not want to give credence to the building of the Tower of Babel. Yes, he was doing it the wrong way, but he had to have scientific ingenuity to build a Tower of Babel that got God interested, and God came down, let his angels come down to confound the language because of the great ingenuity and architectural background that Nimrod had. And that's found in Genesis 10 and 9. Then we have Sapta, settled in the southern Arabia. You see, before the Arabs got there, they were all black. And then they began to mix and mingle. That's found in Genesis 10 and 7. The Ethiopian man, as the European women used to call him, they used to say they want a man that is tall, that is dark, and handsome. When you say tall, dark, and handsome, you're talking about Ethiopian men, and particularly black Ethiopian men. Then there was another son. You have Mizraim. Remember, you got Cush, and then you got Mizraim. Mizraim means Egypt. The name Egypt was given by the Greeks. The real name is Kemet, which means the land of the blacks. The son of Mizraim, he had these sons. He had Ludin, who settled in North Africa. Abinamin settled also in North Africa. Lehabam settled in North Africa. Nephatim settled in North Africa. Patabarus settled in North Africa. And the Philistines settled in the land of the Greeks, in the land of the Creeks, These are all Mizraim's sons. Then we go to Put, which is Libya. And according to science and according to genealogy, there was no descendant, but Put was a great name in Africa. From Put, then we go to Canaan. The word Canaan means Philistine, meaning that the sons of Canaan were Sidon. They were also called the Phoenicians. Let me say it again. The sons of Canaan was also called the Phoenicians, who settled in modern-day Lebanon. They also called themselves the Canaanite people. And everybody know, or should know, that the Canaanite people were black. Then we have Heth. And from Heth, we have Hittites, were landowners who sold the land of Abraham to bury Sarah, his wife. In other words, he sold the land to Abraham in order for Abraham to bury his wife. He was Heth, known as the Hittites. He was a great landowner. That's found in Genesis chapter 23, verses 3 through 30. They were skilled with timber, and they also were the very first inhabitants, guess where? In China. They were the first inhabitants in China. They were skilled laborers. These are the Hittites. We move on. And then from there, we see other sons that was a part of the Canaanites, part of Canaan. You had the Jebusites. The Jebusites settled in Jerusalem. Joshua 15, verses 6 and 3. You see, David conquered Jerusalem from the Jebusites, and that was in 3000 AD, okay? The Amorites settled also in the hills of the country of Judea. Sometimes the name was used as a representation of the Canaanites in Genesis 15, verse 16. Then we have the Gergesites. The Gergesites settled in Canaan and conquered the Hebrews. Then we have the Hivites. The Hivites were a peaceful people. Then we have the Arkites. The Arkites settled in Sidon. Then we have the Sinites. The Sinites settled in the original culture of China. And even Buddha was black. Even Buddha was black. Permit me to list some of the great technology that was done during the time of the Hamites. See, during the time of the Hamites, you also had the Ethiopian and the Egyptian pyramid that was invented. You had the invention of paper. You had the ceramic industry. You have mathematics and science. And we know that we get mathematics and science from the great master teacher, and that is Imhotep, who designed the step pyramids, who also was the first medical doctor, who also did some great ingenuity. He was the one that helped supported the University of Timbuktu, along with Mansa Musa. And then we have the beginning of architecture done by Imhotep and many others. The selling of boats and ships, the domestication of animals, and the running water, of which they say we had none. Also, our great ancestors also built many pulleys. They had maps and they had plans and they allowed clocks and calendars. But they tell us we had no civilization. They try to tell us that we were just like monkeys and we was animals. And they went on to sign in 1705 the Constitution deeming us as property, less than humans. But look at all the great contributions we've already made to the world before the European came out of cages, came out of dungeons. We've already went around the world hundreds of times before the white European came out of caves. So we also did the pipe organ. We invented the taming of horses, glass, gears, embalming fluid, and much, 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 much more. These are the contributions that our forefathers made. And I wanted to conclude this year to let you know that you come from greatness. You came from a great God who created the first black man, Adam. Then he did the second Adam, which was a mestizo, and that is Yeshua Messiah. That is Jesus the Christ. A mestizo is broken down in Matthew chapter 1, also Luke chapter 1 and 2, where it talks about the different generation that was a mixture of Jesus. So the word mestizo simply means a person of mixed ancestry. But today, Jesus would be called the Black Messiah. Why? Because where there's the majority of melanin, the European recessive melanin will not be able to function. So I wanted to conclude this year with you. I want you to let you know that we're going to begin to move in some other teaching on understanding. While we're learning our history, we can do two things at the same time. Not only can we learn our history and know our history, but we learn our history to heal. We learn our history to connect the genetic predisposition of our brains to the continent of Africa, and we can begin to grow and heal together by our minds taking us back to who we really were. And that's why they didn't want you to read. That's why they didn't want you to have books. That's why they put laws against you reading and writing. And some of us are still under the bondage of those laws of reading and writing. But here on JC Global, Embassy TV 1, you're getting your history. All you have to do is allow that history to come into you, and you believe that history that you're hearing, and you'll begin to rise on the inside of you, just like I did. You'll rise up on the inside of you and know that I am somebody great, and know my forefathers was great people. My forefathers built pyramids. My forefathers invented medicine. My forefathers came from great lineage. We was the first people on the planet. We ruled the world at one time through Nimrod and many others, such as Mansa Musa, such as Imhotep, such as the great warriors of King Hannibal, such as Shaka Zulu, such as Makeda, such as Cleopatra, such as all of these great people that came before us. And the world is terrified of you knowing who you are. But we're learning it, and we're learning it fast. And the world is terrified because when we know who we are, we'll pull our pants up. When we know who we are, we'll stop calling our women, the B word. When we know who we are, we won't be laying down with sodomites. When we know who we are, we'll rise up on the inside. And what I'm telling you today, as we conclude this matter for this year, that you are somebody. You are somebody, and not only are you somebody, you are brilliant. And not only are you brilliant, you are excellent. And not only are you excellent, you are creative. And not only are you creative, you are resilient. And God has placed that in you and me and to us as black folks. Now it's time to heal. Let's heal. Healing shouldn't take another 100 years. Healing shouldn't take another 30 years. Healing shouldn't take much because we know who we are. We know what we've been through. And now we must know where we're going. Let's heal. And while we are healing, let us build. Let us build ourselves individually. Let us build our community collectively. Let us build our families collectively. Let us use the village concept. It takes a village to raise a child, but also a village to be able to love upon each other so we can be who God intended for us to be. This is a great time for us as black folks. We have to seize the moment. And what we will be doing here at JC Global, Embassy TV 1, we're going to be connecting the diaspora with the continent of Africa, as we went over already to Ghana And we had a chance to meet some black Jews. We had a chance to be foot on soil talking to black Jews. It was a beautiful time. And I want you to know that God has greatness for us, you and I as black folks. He has greatness for us. And we must seize the moment while we're healing and building. We can't consistently have a victim mindset. We must not be in a victim stance. We can no longer wait for the Europeans or any other group to come and help us, because they are not coming. We must do what our forefathers did in Rosewood. We must do what they've done by building their own cities. This is our moment. We're moving into 2023. This is our moment to heal and to build while loving on each other. And we do that with one love. Black Nation building time. God bless you. God keep you. I trust you have a great rest of the day. And I trust that God will give you the mindset of healing and building. This is our moment. Let us take it and be the people who we know we can be. God bless you. One love. Black Nation building time. God bless. Until next time.